Hello, and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast number 2089. The topic is nutrition, and the title is Overcomplicated and Underestimated. I've been fortunate to get to work with clients all the way from beginners, people who are doing a diet for the first time ever, they're training for the first time ever, all the way to professionals. I've worked with clients in professional sports, NFL, Major League Baseball, Olympics and BMX and swimming, aesthetics and women's figure, women's physique, men's physique, powerlifting, world record holders, and multiple weight class league totals. I've worked with people on each end of the spectrum of achievement and expected goals, meaning people who just want to lose a few pounds, all the way to people who want to be the best in the world at what they do. When it comes to nutrition, there are two universal aspects that I see among all populations of clients. They overcomplicate it and they underestimate it. They ask a million questions about nuances and specific details. They want to know the nitty-gritty details, like the 1% or the 1% of the 1% of details. But then, they're not doing the basic foundational stuff. So, for example, one client was worried about their glucose response to white rice. In our diet plan, this is what she wrote in the journal. In our diet plan, you said I can have any type of rice, but I read that white rice causes glucose spikes. So I was wondering if I should avoid white rice for now. My response was the glucose response doesn't matter if the rice is consumed within our daily macro targets, but if you are concerned, you can certainly eat brown or wild rice or quinoa, or use another carb source if rice in general is a fear for you or concern for you. And then, since I was in their journal, I was like, let me log into their app, their nutrition tracking app. I'll see what they've been doing. And that week, I believe I responded on a Thursday or Friday, but they didn't have any of the days that week within the appropriate calories. They underate every single day, and they weren't adjusting. Like, they underate on Monday, and they just underate again on Tuesday. They underate again on Wednesday. They weren't adjusting anything to make the correction. And they hadn't eaten white rice. So I wrote back, I was like, hey, what's up? I said, I understand the white rice question, just out of curiosity, you haven't eaten white rice. How do you know what your glucose response is? So I sent her a study and a video about how glucose response to carb-based foods is often different from person to person. Some people can get a certain type of glucose response from, say, oatmeal, where another person doesn't. Or somebody gets it from cow's milk, but another person doesn't. So it can actually be very individual dependent. And that it's kind of dose related, meaning it doesn't really matter if we're looking at just the concept of fat loss. It doesn't really matter, assuming that our calories are correct within our target ranges, like our daily needs. If we're not eating in a surplus, it really doesn't even matter. So I sent her all that stuff. And it was interesting is that is commonly what happens. People overcomplicate nutrition. And it's not intentional. I understand that. It's very challenging because the world will tell you 1,000,001 things and you don't know who's right and what to do. So what matters is calories, protein, and timing. That's it. The rest is after those elements are addressed. So I do answer client questions. I actually really enjoy the client questions. It's one of my favorite things of what I get to do. I provide meal examples. I provide a list of healthy foods. I appreciate that they ask questions. I can't think of the proper word right now, but basically the way I think of it when somebody asks me a question is that they're honoring me in the sense of wanting to know what my opinion is. So it's a compliment for them to ask me a question. That's pretty awesome. So I want to respond in a way in which my answer shows that respect back to them. So I take time to answer all their questions. I have client journals that are 100 plus pages of Q&A entries and diet reviews. But that's often what I commonly see is people get things out of order. They don't focus on the basics and create a solid foundation. Instead, the basics are kind of like, oh yeah, I know that, but they're not doing it. And then they look at all these small little details that don't even matter, and they're not usually even doing those. So it's common in the sense to where somebody asked me about the glucose response to white rice, but they don't even eat white rice. And they're not even tracking their calories and their protein. And it's like, oh my God, why were we so worried about white rice when we have much larger worries? It's like, holy crap, the house is on fire. We got to figure out how to put the fire out. We got some big problems to do. So nutrition can feel complicated, but it isn't. And I try my best to make it as simple as it can be and for free. We have free nutrition information on our website. You can go to our website, www.brutalirongym.com, go to the nutrition education page. There's a free document that you can view, you can print, you can download that'll teach you how to write out your own nutrition program. We also have podcast 1928, which you can find on our website. On the homepage, we have a podcast player that goes back 300 episodes. So you can go back to podcast 1928. It's titled Writing Your Own Nutrition Program. I literally tell you step by step how I write a nutrition program for clients, and you can do that for yourself, or if you're a personal trainer, you would do that for your clients. So it's totally for free. I love doing it for free because a lot of that basic stuff, I don't mind doing it, but it's not super mentally enjoyable for me at this point. I like doing more of the nuancy stuff. So I'm happy to have people get this started with the basics, and then I can come in and kind of sort out the more of that like 1% type stuff. That is more enjoyable. Now, I like helping people, and I will always write the basics all the time, but I don't want people to feel as though finances is going to be why they can't get help. You can get help totally for free. Have it on the website, and we have it in podcast 1928. But that is often what happens with nutrition is it becomes overcomplicated. But also, people underestimate how important nutrition is. So an example, a female powerlifter, she's an elite total powerlifter. She took 2 years off competition to focus on work. We were prepping for a meet and getting back into the swing of things. Training was going well. She was already hitting elite totals in numbers in her training. So about 8 weeks out from the meet, I asked, hey, how are you doing with food? Have you been tracking your calories and protein? If so, what are the numbers? If not, here are my recommendations. And I gave her what I would recommend for her, given her lean muscle mass or activity level and whatnot, for calories and protein. She responded, I'm good, I'm tracking everything. And I was like, okay, well, great, but like, what are you tracking? Like, what are the numbers? And it took 3 weeks for me to get an answer out of her. So I was probably borderline annoying the crap out of her. But she was undereating. She was undereating because she wanted to lose fat going into the competition. She knew she could cut water weight. She was only 2 or 3 pounds over the competition weight anyhow. So we could cut water weight the week of the meet and she'd have been totally fine. But she wanted to lose body fat because she didn't like the ways in which she was kind of feeling and looking at the moment. She avoided telling me what she was doing because she knew I was going to advise her not to do that, not to just undereat. Number one, you don't want to undereat going into a meet. You don't want to be in a caloric deficit if you don't have to be, because that basically ensures that you are not maximizing recovery for muscles and connective tissue. You're not going to maximize performance. You're just not going to get the best outcome being in a sustained caloric deficit, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 weeks out and all the way into a powerlifting meet. And especially since she was only 2 or 3 pounds over the meet weight, there was no way for her. She didn't need to be in a caloric deficit for 8 freaking weeks before the competition. And then number 2, if we wanted to lose body fat, that isn't the way we would have done it. I would have asked her to eat more, eat earlier in the day, because she was kind of missing breakfast some days. Some days she was having lunch, some days she wasn't. Then she was overeating at night. So we had to be more consistent with breakfast, more consistent with lunch, and then add to her step count on non-training days. I would have asked her to eat more and move more. But she said that she was fearful of that And she knew that was what I was going to tell her, but she didn't want to tell me because she didn't want to hear me tell her that. So I responded. I said, we've worked together for over 6 years. We went from our first meet ever to an elite total. I've helped you lose body fat before. You've had veins on your abs before. Eating more and moving more has worked 100% of the time. It would work again. And she wrote, well, since I took 2 years off, I was worried my body wouldn't respond the same now that I'm getting older. To which I responded, you're not old. You're not older. 2 years is a very small amount of time. And I said, that's what I'm here for. If you have any doubts, any worries, any questions, ask me. She then said that she felt embarrassed because at this point, with us having done this so many times, that she should just know what to do, but it's still hard to believe that eating less isn't the right thing to do. She said it's still hard to believe that eating more helps me lose body fat. And I said, true, it does. But as you know, when we do that, meaning when we undereat, and we undereat in a sustained manner, like for chronic time, like multiple weeks, we move like crap, we feel like crap, we perform like crap, and eventually nothing changes in our physique, so you look like crap. So I said eating less has a 100% failure rate. Every single time she has eaten less, it eventually hasn't gotten her where she wanted. She was having that problem before we ever started working together. She had an eating disorder back before we started working together. I have had an eating disorder, so I do understand that. And that's one of the things in which her and I kind of connected in how she could overcome that, was because I knew where she was emotionally, mentally, and I overcame that in my own way. So not that everybody has to do it the same way, but at least she was going to have a trainer who understood. So we focused on education, we focused on slow experiments, and she's still working through that. So this was an example where those, kind of the bad thoughts kind of got her again, and she wanted to revert back to under eating as a way to lose weight, but we had to revisit that losing weight doesn't mean you're going to lose specifically body fat, and it sure as hell does not help us perform well. So we boosted her calories, protein, and hydration. She ended up feeling well, better, back to herself about 3 weeks before the meet. She crushed it. She got 2 PRs, hit another elite total. So she did great. But this is also commonly what happens, is people underestimate the impact of food. She thought she could train to the maximum of what her body could manage, but somehow eat less and still manage it. I've had people tell me, well, I work out 5-6 days a week. I'm active all the time, as in a reason why they don't have to track food. But they're also unhappy. They're training 5-6 days a week, but they're not as strong as they want to be. They're not as lean as they want to be. They're not as muscular as they want to be. And it's like, why the hell do you think that is? You don't need to train more. Please, for the love of God, stop adding stuff to your training and focus on your food. I have people tell me, well, I eat healthy. I eat clean food, and therefore they don't need to track what they're doing nutrition-wise. But yet, they don't look good, they don't feel good, they don't have the results they want. And it's like, what the hell? It's exactly why. Nutrition is extremely impactful. It is literally one of the 2 most impactful things we can do for our health. The other one being sleep. But yet people will be lazy towards tracking what they eat, or they don't track it at all. So nutrition is often overcomplicated and underestimated. If you can reverse those 2 common mental mistakes, you will freaking look and feel amazing. You will make amazing progress. The key with nutrition is to keep it simple and keep it consistent. You can add complexity to what you're doing, but only if the basic elements remain in place. From the beginner clients to the advanced clients, they all follow the same steps. And each step cannot be made until the previous step is secure. Every single client, we have to have some control, some degree of consistency with calories. Then we have to have some control, some degree of consistency with protein. Then we look at timing. We look at meal timing and we look at macronutrient timing. Meaning if I have a long break between meals, I probably need to have more fats so that meal is more sustainable, more fats and proteins. If I have a short time between meals because I need to get a lot of carbs in before training, I'm going to focus on carbs. Like the meal timing, the macronutrient timing, those elements matter. 100% they matter. 100% they have an impact. But they don't matter unless calories are consistent and protein is consistent. You have to know what you're doing with your calories. You have to know what you're doing with your protein. And then beyond that, you have to actually freaking adjust and get it right. So when people track their calories and they're off 5, 6, 7, 14 days, maybe you only got like 6 days consistent out of 14 days in your target. Why are we not making an adjustment? Why are we not figuring that out? Where's the urgency? I know you give a shit. I know you care. That's why they hire me. That's why they're paying money. That's why they actually track their food in the first place, that we actually can see the numbers are off. I know you care. Now, I'm not going to question that. And I hope it doesn't come across as me questioning that. I know people care. What's the thing that's preventing us from taking that corrective, that adjustment step? If I know every day I miss breakfast, I end up missing my protein goal. Why do I still miss breakfast? We know there's quick options for breakfast items. I've written them in the client journals. You can Google that stuff. Why aren't we making that adjustment? Number one, why don't we track what we do if we know it's important? And then if we are tracking what we're doing, then number two, why aren't we adjusting what we do to better meet our targets? You have an amazing life ahead of you. You have a life that you, at this moment, probably can't even picture how great it can be, how good it can feel. You can accomplish a lot. We just have to do the things that allow us to get there. We have to be more consistent with our calories. And maybe that means I only have 2 or 3 options for breakfast at the moment because, okay, I know my breakfast is supposed to be around 500 calories, supposed to be maybe around 30 grams of protein. What gets me 500 calories and 30 grams of protein? Can I find a single option? Once I can I eat that option until I find a second option? So that way I at least can have a little bit of variety. Can I eat those 2 options until I find a third option? Now, if I can do that for breakfast, can I do it for lunch? Can I do it for dinner? Can I do it for my meals in between? Take those steps, put in those efforts, ask those questions. If you're one of my clients, you better ask me questions. That's what I'm here for. That's why you have an online journal. That's 100% what we're doing. If you don't have a coach, Google this stuff. And I know you're going to get a million answers. It's going to be overwhelming. You're going to feel frustrated. There are places you can go for simple answers. Hint, hint, hint. You can go to the website and look at that free nutrition program information. You can listen to podcast 1928 and it'll tell you step by step how to do it. But even if you don't take those steps, take a step. Try it. See the response you get from it. If it isn't the response you want, try something else. It's trial and error, but you do have to try. And sometimes you do have to error. But that's how we get there. That's how we move forward. That's how we make progress. Nutrition can often feel overcomplicated and overwhelming. But the basics, the foundation, is actually pretty simple. Calories, protein, and timing. Again, you can go to our website, you can listen to podcast 1928. And often nutrition is underestimated. It's overlooked. People think, well, I eat healthy foods, therefore the calories don't matter. I train consistently, therefore the calories don't matter. They find whatever reason to underestimate the importance of the foundations of nutrition. And that happens from beginners to advanced. So let's work against that. Let's aim for nutrition to keep it simple and keep it consistent. If you can do that, you're going to do great. If you have any questions, if you need anything, you can go to our website. We have a Contact Us page on the website now. You can just click on that page, send me any questions you have, any concerns, and I'll get back to you within 2 weeks. If you like the podcast, please share the podcast. The more people we share it with, the more people we can help. If you like the podcast, please consider donating to support the podcast, which you can do on our website. And if you like the information we share in the podcast, we do create new and different information every single day now on Instagram and YouTube. They're both under the name Brutal Iron Gym. If you find us on both of those, make sure you subscribe and or follow so that way we can grow those pages and reach more people. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.